And welcome back to Whiskey Politics. I'm Dave Sussman, your host and purveyor, whiskeypolitics.net. You can find us at America's Voice News. If you're following our YouTube channel, make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're updated on new interviews. And the audio podcast series can be heard at ricochet.com and iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. And give us a 5-star rating if you're listening on iTunes. There's so much, I guess, confusion today in the way that we talk to each other, and that boils down to our relationships. And we're going to kind of veer away from politics on this episode. I'd love to talk about culture a little bit and talk about relationships and what's happening in this brand new world order that we're living in today when it comes to men and women speaking to each other. To discuss all of this, a delightful lady I met, I believe, at Politicon a couple of months ago, the author of the book, Making Love Great Again, DeAnna Lorraine. DeAnna, thanks for joining us.
So great to be here, Dave. Thank you. I love your show.
Oh, thank you. And love what you're doing. You've got a YouTube channel with a lot of followers on there. You're on CNN, RT, Fox News, CRTV. You're out there. You've got a lot of folks that are listening to what it is that you're saying. We're in a really strange place right now. I was born to believe that you treat women with respect and chivalry and open the door and the whole thing. And at the same time, be a little bit aggressive. If I like a girl, I'm going to let that be known.
Yeah.
It's dangerous today.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, you know, the funny thing is, so I started as a dating and relationship coach. That's how I started my career.
Okay.
Okay. And so I was teaching men how to attract women, and I was teaching women how to attract men and how to get into relationships. That was my job. People paid me for that. And it still kind of is. But what happened in the last year or so was that I was noticing that the culture was changing so much, and the relationship between men and women were becoming so divided. The family unit was becoming so broken. It was hard for people to even connect, even people that had real skills, real attraction skills. And I started realizing that the state of America is directly correlated with the state of our relationships between men and women, right? And I was very frustrated with the state of America, and I was seeing it declining. And at the same time, I was realizing that the gap between men and women was widening more too. And people are just not connecting anymore, right? So yes, what's happening? Political correctness, feminism, and leftism, those ideologies are breaking up the relationship between men and women. And we could talk more about that. But that is basically it in a nutshell. And that's why I went on to start speaking publicly about this, because my job is to tell the truth. That's what people hire me for, is to tell the truth, whether people like me or not. So I thought I had to really tell people the real reasons, the root of why relationships are broken right now, and why men and women are also having a hard time attracting each other and even dating. I call this romance apocalypse, where, you know, men and women are kind of on opposite sides of the planet, and unless we make some real changes very fast, we're going to have the point of no return where we can't get back to a healthy state of relationships between men and women. And that's what prompted me to write my book, Making Love Great Again, so that I could speak out about these topics. Yes, a lot of people hate me. I have a lot of enemies for speaking the truth about why our relationships are broken right now. Because
what is it they hate? What is it that you're saying that's controversial?
That I speak out a bit against feminism, that I speak out against liberalism, that I actually promote conservative values, because I think that's part of the answer to bring relationships back together again in the family unit. Because I tell the truth that feminism is actually more harmful to women than it's helpful, and that it's the cause of one of the causes of the broken relationship between men and women.
Let me ask you a little bit about this, though.
Bad for society.
Yeah, feminism, I guess self-proclaimed feminists amount to what, about 5% of the population? Is that?
This is what they say, but that's a weird number, and I'm not sure how I feel about that number, because every woman I talk to, and we live in California, right in LA, so we live in LA, and every woman I talk to say that they're a feminist, or that they practice feminist ideologies. Right? So where is that number coming from? I don't really know, because everyone I know is a feminist or claims them to be, and I have to hunt for women who actually think like me, who think conservatively, and who actually who ditch feminist principles.
Well, let's break this down then, because if you're talking about feminism, and most people will say, well, I support feminism from the standpoint of equal rights, and we can talk about the wage gap and all of those issues, which are the cornerstone. But then there's third wave feminism.
Right.
There's the activists.
Yes.
Okay, and they are causing people to be concerned about language that you can and cannot say and things. So there is a divide there, right?
Yes, there is. And I think we can all agree that everyone wants equal rights for women and opportunities, right? Most people agree that that's a good thing. But the thing is, now that we've achieved that, what is there to keep fighting about? Women already have every right and opportunity as men do now. And we can go into the ins and outs of the wage gap myth if you want to later, but really they do have every right and even more advantages now with certain, like Title IX and certain things in place. They already have enough advantages, if not more special privileges. So at this point, what is it that they're continuing to fight about? This is where Marxism comes in, and it's part of Marxism is divide and conquer, and it's creating new things to get outraged about, new divisions within an already divided organization or group, so that they continue to have people fight each other instead of getting along and loving each other. Especially men and women, pitting men and women against each other, pitting whites against blacks. Yeah. Right?
This is the issue.
It's not just men against women. It's whites against blacks.
It's tribalism.
It's tribalism. Exactly. And the people that are this third wave feminists now, and as well as liberals, they don't get it. They don't see that this is what they're buying into. They're buying into a lie that says we are at odds with each other, that we are the enemies instead of the enemies being big government.
Okay.
Right? And the relationship between men and women is the cornerstone. It's the most sacred relationship. Because if we have a healthy relationship between men and women and it's strong, then we have healthy families. And then we have a strong America. We have a strong country. Because strong families create a strong country. When we have a weak relationship between men and women, we have weak families or less families altogether. We have broken homes, which contribute to a broken America, a broken country. And this is where we're at right now. We can see the effects right now of our broken relationships.
You talk about this coming from a Marxist perspective, and if you take a look at Marxism in today's society, it really refers to big government, centralized government, and that women have been, what I'm hearing you say and what you discuss is that women have been sold a bill of goods, that instead of relying upon a man, they should rely upon the big government.
Right. They basically replaced men with another form. If they thought marriage was slavery, what are they doing now? They're enslaved to their work. They're enslaved to the government. And they basically married the government in place, and they're no happier. In fact, they're more miserable, they're more depressed now than they were in the 1950s.
So a lot of women who may be hearing this that may not be politically savvy, they may not follow everything as deep as you possibly do and many of our viewers do. They just work and they take care of their family if they have kids, or they're focused on a relationship in their life, and then they come home and they put on a little bit of television and repeat and rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat. And then it comes down to election day, and you see these commercials from different campaigns that talk about women's rights, whether it's reproductive rights or whatever the issue may be, where there's a fear factor that is being implemented on women. And we just saw this with the Kavanaugh hearings. Okay. Right. How do you communicate this to women in large, in mass? And I know this is what you're trying to do through all of the efforts that you're courageously getting out there talking about. But what is that message? What is that message to women who may not be following this so closely?
Well, the thing is that I would like to ask, what has Kavanaugh done, or what has Trump done specifically to remove your rights or threaten your rights? I haven't seen anything.
Kavanaugh just cemented, right? I mean, he went against a lot of conservatives on a Supreme Court decision recently.
He disappointed a lot of conservatives, right? And, the truth is they haven't done anything to chip away at women's rights. Whether you believe in abortion or not, whether that's against your principles or not, I don't really want to go there, but what I want to go through is what does it do when you're constantly fighting with a man? What does it do for society when you view men as the enemy or you view men as an oppressor? That's what the system is right now. What feminism is now, this new brand of feminism, Marxism, AKA, it's teaching women from a young age to view men as the oppressor and them as the oppressed, right? To view men as the or the patriarchy as something evil and them as the victim. Right there, when you're doing that, what does that do for your life? Then you're constantly a victim and a man is constantly an oppressor. It creates fear and it creates mistrust between men and women. Right there, without even going too much further down the other destructive ways of feminism, how do you think, just using your logical reasoning, how do you think that helps or hurts the society? How does that help your relationship with men? And how do you think that hurts men or their relationship with women, right? If you constantly view someone as an enemy or as an oppressor, and you say who they are as a person, they're male, they're toxic, what do you think that does to the morale of men? If a woman is truly rational and compassionate, I couldn't imagine them not seeing the long-term consequences of that. You know, if you are a woman with a heart or with any sort of common sense, I just ask you to look at those long-term consequences and feel those out from a man's perspective, because men are getting this on this sort of this denigrating and this, just absolute sort of submission on a worldwide level. How do you think that is going for society? We can see right now, we have men checking out now of society. We have men just saying, you know what, I can't win anymore. I'm going to actually give up on women because I'm tired of being called an oppressor. I'm tired of being called toxic just for being born a man, especially white men or white straight men. They have it the worst. I feel like the divorce courts are favoring of women instead of men. So what's the point? What's the point of women? What's the point of getting married anymore? What's the point of having families when I can do no right?
What impact is that having right now on relationships and dating? You've written about it, you talk about it from a personal perspective. And what the focus would be something that I want to get into, and that is the impact that it is directly having on how men talk with women.
Yeah.
And we're going to be right back in just a couple of moments with Whiskey Politics with DeAnna Lorraine. And we're back with DeAnna Lorraine, and we're just talking a little bit about the impact that this dichotomy, if you will, where you have this breakdown of communication between men and women, and it's having an impact on men. Now, you just referred to toxic masculinity, right? This is being bantered about by a lot of these third-wave feminists, and the colleges are now teaching kids, you have to not look at women in a certain way. I mean, it's getting to the point where there's like this almost it's like Orwellian police that are out there.
It's Orwellian thought police.
Right?
I actually write that in my book.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about that and the impact that is actually having on men and their approaches to women nowadays.
Yeah, I'm going to give just a few examples. Number one, we were talking about the Kavanaugh case before, right? So with Kavanaugh, what happened? One or two people made an allegation against him that also there was no facts to back it up or anything, no corroborating evidence. But all of a sudden, the mob went after Kavanaugh, and everyone was posting on Twitter these hashtags: believe women, believe all women, believe survivors. They had a national walkout day, and this poor man was absolutely lynched. I mean, basically, it's like this is basically lynching, right? Because of an allegation.
Right.
So they're setting a very dangerous new precedent that men are guilty until proven innocent, which is not supposed to happen in America. Number two, we see Baby It's Cold Outside. This is a song that has long been loved by all of us since 1944, an old Christmas song, right? It says innocent as they come. A man is kind of trying to coax a woman to stay back inside for a little bit longer because baby, it's cold outside. And she wants to stay too. Secretly, she deep down wants to stay, but she doesn't really want to seem like a slut. All right, so he's kind of coaxing her in, and they're both using the guise of it's cold outside, it's snowing outside, because they both deep down want to be with each other.
Right.
And it's a flirting kind of back and forth, coy thing going on. Now, when you have these kinds of things, now feminists are banning that song. They're wanting to ban Baby It's Cold Outside, and we have the liberal thought police going after that song and trying to ban it because they think that it's sexist, or they think that the man is being demeaning towards her or rapey. Now, we see these cases all the time with women saying that something is rapey when it's just a song from the 1940s. what is the effect on men when you have these kinds of things happening over and over in the public light? And you're a man, you probably see this constantly on the MSM. We see stories of this all the time. What are the implications? We have to look at it. I work with men every day. I have about a 70% clientele that is male instead of female.
And your business is doing what?
Yeah, I'm a relationship coach, right? So
Right.
I'm still working in the field of relationship coach and matchmaking. And besides from all the TV and the podcast that I now do, that is like that's what I ultimately started as. So, and it's what caused me to write my book, right? So I work with men and boys of all ages, and this is impacting them. They think, number one, why even start a relationship with a woman? Why even flirt with her? Why should I even ask her out on a date if that could be even possibly construed as rapey or creepy, or I can get a sexual harassment charge against me? Right, so a lot of men now are not even asking women out.
Is it because of the fear of repercussions of being considered somebody that's
Yes.
rapey, I guess?
Yes.
Is there another side to this,
Yes,
though?
there is.
Okay.
So the other thing too is that so we have the song and things like that.
Right.
That they're afraid now that they could possibly. We have seen that sexual harassment now is completely subjective. Women redefine sexual harassment and what's defined as sexual harassment all the time. Sometimes it's a joke that gets someone fired. Someone got fired from ESPN for telling a joke, and when he thought it was just with his friend, a woman overheard it.
Right.
Sometimes it's just locker room talk that wasn't even directed at the woman, and sometimes it's you're at a party and you playfully push a woman against a wall. Men don't even know what sexual harassment is anymore, right? So that's number one, is that they're afraid of sexual harassment allegations. The other is that a lot of women these days aren't even making themselves very attractive. They have lost their femininity. They've bought into this lie that says, the feminist lie is that being feminine or beautiful or just owning your femininity is somehow weak or contributing to this patriarchy, this evil patriarchy. So a lot of women are just kind of letting themselves go. They're being very combative with men because they feel like they always have to correct men on everything in order to assert their power. And they feel like they have to almost act like men, but not just a man, but almost the worst kind of man. It's very strange. They're almost turning themselves into a very abusive or powerful man.
So the stereotypical toxic masculinity that they're referring to, they're becoming that.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're almost feeling like they need to talk like men and make themselves very unattractive or very man-like, or else they feel weak. So they're almost competing with men now. Now, it shouldn't come as any surprise to anyone who knows human nature that masculine men are attracted to feminine women. Femininity is attracted to masculinity. This is called sexual polarity. You have to have femininity and masculinity to be attracted. So when women are showing up now like men and at the same time berating men, I mean, what you have is basically like an asshole with boobs. It's kind of what it is. I don't know if I can say that, but why would a man want to date that? It's not even attractive anymore, because what made a woman so beautiful was her beauty and her femininity. So men are not wanting to date women for multiple reasons now, or even approach women. One is they're afraid of any kind of repercussions. Is this going to be considered sexual harassment, possibly? Two is a lot of women aren't even desirable anymore. They're not very feminine. They want to act and be like men. So they say, what's the point?
Yeah.
And then number three is they're afraid if they do get married, there's severe repercussions, because the marriage and family court system is discriminatory towards men. And usually women come out on top if there is a divorce, and men come out financially cleaned out, spiritually raped in a way, and it's very, very difficult for men to recover. So with all those things being said, a lot of men are checking out of society.
I know nothing about that. Anyway, I want to.
We have to listen to these consequences that
Yeah.
women and feminists refuse to acknowledge.
Yeah,
Those are
and
really
I want to.
impactful.
I want to get into a lot more of this, especially the impact that it's actually having on men and masculinity, and what that impact is having actually on the world and politics and economics and everything else that we're seeing right now. So we're going to be right back and take a short break, and we'll be right back with DeAnna Lorraine. And we're back with DeAnna Lorraine. And by the way, where can folks find you on YouTube and everywhere
all
else
the
right
action
now?
is on Twitter,
Okay.
YouTube, which is DeAnna Lorraine 7,
Okay.
Another DeAnna Lorraine apparently out there. So DeAnna Lorraine 7 on YouTube and Twitter. You got my podcast there, Make Love Great Again. That's also on iTunes. But all the video and my tweets and everything on YouTube and Twitter. If they do want to hire me for relationship and dating coaching and matchmaking, then that would be my website at DeAnnaLorraine.com.
Great. Want to get back to what we were just chatting about with this idea of how the impact of this language and this thought that we're having from third wave feminists is having on men and masculinity. You talk about how it's impacting relationships, and it's talking about how men are being impacted, but there's another side to it I wanted to ask you as well. Primarily, and that is this: when men are receiving so much negative feedback from women, okay, that impacts men in a lot of different ways. Ego being one, okay, self-doubt. But we also have this, I'm seeing this now from kind of a 5,000 foot overview. We also have a generation that is now being raised where they're not interested in dating. And it goes back to what you were talking about. Is it because, and I would assume some men are scared of the ramifications of saying the wrong thing or looking at a woman the wrong way in today's really fragile society, very sensitive, or is it because men have lost the idea of how to approach a woman? There's no courage anymore. Because that's a scary thing for a guy.
I know, and it's even scarier when you get slapped on the wrist every time, or when there's possible repercussions. So that's a big question. Of course, I answer this in my book, and I'll try to break it down very quickly. It's all of the above, right? So right now there's a shortage of, starting from the family. Men who are raised in single mothers are often have a harder time attracting women and getting into relationships with them. They often take after their mother, and they're lacking a male role model, a strong male role model. So already you have a problem then with a lot of weaker guys, a generation of weaker men in general. That don't really know or were never taught how to really be a man. And then we have culture also telling them that masculinity is toxic and you should be almost ashamed of any masculine tendencies. So there we have a perfect storm for a lot of men growing up more weak and not really interested in women or traditional masculine things. Then we have, men being shamed constantly, saying that, it's not right to be a man, or, they should do better. They need to, suck up to women more, basically, and chant for female rights and everything. And you really have a recipe for men just checking out and saying, what's the point? What's the point of dating anymore? And if I'm not even going to get very many benefits of women, since women have often lost their role as women in society too, and women feel like it's weak to be a woman or to even be a mother or a housewife or a supportive teammate. Women have lost that ability to know what it means to just be a teammate to a man, right? They think they always have to be in power or a number one. They have to be so independent and have their own success and feel like it's weak to be dependent on a male. So it breaks up this natural social contract between men and women. And I don't blame men. When you get to a point where men are constantly feeling underappreciated and unwanted and unneeded by society and by women, and you have all these other restraints and shaming going on of men, this sort of slow castration, is it any surprise that men would check out of women in marriage and check out even of society and retreat into things like video games and pornography and living at home with their parents? I don't know if you know this, but there's a record number of men that are living with their parents now. The percentage has grown 10% in just 10 years. What's going on? What's going on with our boys and men? We're not empowering them. We're weakening them actively as a society. And then we have something, and this is why it creates disaster in our society when we have these weakened men that are checking out and feel like they have no purpose in life because they're not needed and wanted by women in society. And then we have something like MGTOW.
Yes.
Right? MGTOW is a growing population. It's a growing movement.
Explain what it stands for.
It stands for men going their own way. And it might be, it's men that have decided to just swear off women forever. And they've relinquished their role as a man, as a protector or a provider or a leader. and they just say, I'm just going to be selfish and have my own, go my own way in life. And they are not interested in even sex, a lot of them, and not interested in being a family, having a family or having a woman, because they feel like women are too toxic these days, or because that the system is rigged against them. And it might seem like a small movement, but it's not. This is a growth.
What age range are we seeing this primarily right now?
Scarily enough, this is starting from age 10 or 11 up until 60s and 70s of men.
Okay.
And it's being passed down because of the accessible, information from the internet. Boys are looking through stuff on their phones and online. They're getting this information at a younger and younger age. And I would say it's very healthy for our society when we have 11-year-old boys that have no interest in women, or even worse, that have a resentment towards women. I mean, I don't know what you're doing at 11, but at 11 you should be kind of like playing with toys or building tree forts. Or
Actually, I was into girls by that point.
Or into girls, but
Yeah.
as your playmate, or as you have a crush on them.
But here's the difference, okay? Today and back in the day, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have 24/7 entertainment.
Right.
Okay, so we had to go out and socialize. We were in the neighborhood. We were outside
playing
playing.
hide and go
We were socializing. We were talking. We were playing. There was flirting, even at that young, 12, 13, maybe years old. And I think today everybody is what you're talking about, being cocooned.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they're playing video games all the time.
Yeah, we have a video game addiction, porn addiction.
Right. What impact is that having on people and human beings, really? I mean, from that standpoint.
Oh, well, it's not good, because we have people disconnected,
Okay.
checked out of life. They don't appreciate the trees and the beauty of nature and everything, and they can't make interpersonal connections. I see, 8-year-old boys with headphones in their ears at Starbucks, just typing away, and they're missing life. They're missing human interaction. So if we keep going down this road, that's why I call it the romance apocalypse that we're living in right now. And it's not just a romance apocalypse, it's a war on our souls.
It's a good book title for your next book.
Yeah. It's a war on our souls. If we don't make any changes, we're going to be these inanimate, joyless, humorless, genderless robots that are just working for the government, but we're lacking that human connection. We're going to lack our relationships, our family unit, and that's what made America so great, and we need to get it back to that place of relationships.
You place a lot of responsibility on broken homes. Well, reality is 50% of homes are broken in this country.
Yeah.
Then there's statistics that go beyond that. There's something along the lines of 60 to 70% of the remaining homes that are not broken. There is unhappy marriages there.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason being is that you can't divorce because of children and because of finances. Okay. So what are children seeing today as far as good examples with adults having relationships? Where are they learning it from?
They're not learning any good examples of relationships. We see that is the other problem, is the media. The media is an accomplice to this degradation of our culture, because you go on TV and you see single dads and single moms.
And the man's always the idiot in those
He's
sitcoms,
always
right?
the idiot, right? He's always the bumbling idiot,
Right.
or the drunk, or the stupid guy, and like the woman has to take over. And that's the thing. Men used to be revered in our society. They used to be honored and respected as our heroes, as our leaders, our protectors. They went off to war. They were the badasses, and we loved them. I still love men, but so much of our media now denigrates men, and it's just from the top down. It's at every angle. How could you? It's hard to be strong as a boy growing into a man now. It's hard. You have to really have a solid support system and good parenting, which has been lost a lot. And
So what is the answer to that? Because if we are talking about the realities of today, right, it's not going to be Mayberry. We can't just say we need to bring families together.
Right.
You've got these broken homes. You've got these broken families. Fathers need to play a role in their kids' life, whether they're in the home or they're not. Either way. But what are the answers for right now?
Okay, a couple things real quick. We need to fix the gynocentric legal system. Okay, the marriage and family court system, it is gynocentric, meaning it favors women. And
I haven't heard that term before. I know gyno, but
that's where it comes from.
Gynocentric.
Gynocentric, look it up.
Okay.
It means things that are favoring towards women.
Okay.
Discriminatory against men. And it is set up, the marriage and family court system right now is set up so that women tend to win, men tend to lose. Right? Most the attorneys now, the judges, usually they favor women and disfavor men. So we need to actually fix these laws so that they're fair and equitable for men. So men even feel like they have a fair shot even getting into marriage, that if for some reason it ends in a divorce, they're not going to be tremendously hurt or, divorce raped. So we got to fix that gynocentric legal system. We also have to fix, some of the laws that are now, we used to have a legal system that promoted marriage and promoted marriages staying together. Through no-fault divorce now, you can just, throw up your hand, throw out the towel, and look, anyone could get divorced at any time. I'm not saying you need to suffer through a terrible marriage just to, bring up the kids correctly, but at the same time, right now, it's too easy to get divorced. And our culture and our legal system almost favors broken families and promotes easy and quick divorce, or single parents, or fatherless homes, instead of keeping the family together.
Right. So if we're talking about changes at the legal level.
Then at the cultural level.
Right. So first on the legal level, you're talking about making divorces a little bit harder. And a lot of feminists and a lot of women, supporters of women, will come out and say, yeah, but there's women that are in bad marriages, they're being beaten and this and that. They should just be able to walk in and we don't want to
90% of
disincentivize them from doing that.
Of course not. But right at this point, I believe it's 85% of marriages are initiated by women now. And I can just...
Marriages or divorces?
Divorces.
Okay.
Divorces are initiated by women. And a lot of these cases are BS reasons. Like, I got to go find myself, or I just feel like it, or I feel like being alone. Those are not really valid reasons to break up a family. And I think that we need to be, along with legal changes, we need to be promoting these values in our culture, in our media, in our TV shows. We need to promote the importance of men and the importance of having men and fathers be in the family. We need to be promoting the importance of women being women too. There's nothing wrong with being a badass woman who conquers the world, but there's also nothing wrong with being a woman who likes to be a housewife or likes to be a supportive teammate to their husband, or just embracing her femininity and not feeling like she has to compete with a man, but she can cooperate or just have a synergistic relationship with men. She can enhance men's life with her unique traits. We can go back and forth, but, another thing we need to talk about is we cannot deny that there's differences between men and women. The more we deny it, the more we're living in a lie. There are great differences between men and women, and those differences are what create that synergistic relationship. And the differences make us more valuable to each other because we can contribute to each other and we need each other. If you stamp out those differences or pretend they don't exist, then you lose the ability to need each other.
Right.
We don't need each other anymore, and we're no longer valuable. So I think it's funny that feminists and liberals like to stamp out those differences and pretend they don't exist, because what you're doing as a woman is you're saying that you're no longer valuable.
Right.
It's actually much worse for feminists than they think.
We're going to continue talking about it in our last segment coming up here with DeAnna Lorraine, the author of Making Love Great Again. And I want to talk a little bit more about the book when we get right back. And Dave Sussman back with you. And you, again, follow us at Whiskey Politics on YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple, iTunes, Ricochet.com, and America's Voice News. We're still speaking with DeAnna Lorraine, the author of Making Love Great Again. Now, the title. A lot of people will take a look at that and they'll be like, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Okay, talk a little bit about that and how it's relating to today's politics.
Yes, because Make Love Great Again is, I think there was a time where love was greater between men and women. It might not have been perfect, but it was greater, and there was more mutual respect and care between men and women. Now, I believe most of that has gone out the window. And women and feminists might say there's more respect towards women now, but it's forced respect. You can't force someone to respect you. You can't say, you have to respect me, and it's not genuine. And that's what feminists have gone on a mission to do right now. There's also this picture, right? This picture was that iconic picture from back in the 50s when it came back from, it was D-Day.
World War
right?
II. Yeah.
Yes, World War II. And feminists tend to hate me with this book because they say, he was kissing her without her consent. And this is a very rapey picture. But the reality is, isn't this a hot picture? I mean,
awesome.
It's romantic.
And she's into it.
She's into it.
Yeah.
And it epitomizes how far we've gone, where now people think that's rapey or it's non-consensual, but back then it was just considered romantic, and it epitomizes, sometimes men have their raw masculinity and they just want to, they just want to kiss a woman, and sometimes women just want to be kissed like that. They want to have a little aggression. They want that masculinity, and if we do away with those gender roles and gender differences or instincts completely, you kill romance. And that's what they've successfully done. They've killed romance. And I think there's a shred of it still left, and that's what I'm trying to bring back. And that's why I say making love great again.
Yeah. So when you talk about being a relationship coach, okay, and you're dealing with many of them men and women who are talking this way with each other.
Yeah.
And you just brought up about 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years of instinct and DNA, and that the woman she's there, but that all comes down to trust.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. You have to have trust for your partner for you to be able to give in to that instinct and to want that. So
that's good. Yeah. And by the way, I started my career as a dating and relationship coach when I was young. I was 23 years old, little pipsqueak. I'm still pretty young, but this is so I've worked with guys and boys across the spectrum, and same with women. And in just a 10-year span, I've seen how crazy it's been divided. But as far as the trust goes, it's almost like the trust has been broken between men and women on a global level because of these things that a lot of that feminists have been doing, and because of the constant denigration of men. The trust has been broken. So it's hard to it's imagine if you're on the verge of divorce from your partner, you're going into marriage therapy, and it's you already feel the trust has been broken. It is hard to totally be yourself or give in to your natural instincts, right? You're right about that. And that's why we're at such odds with each other now, is that it's like we feel on a subconscious level the trust broken between men and women. It's hard for men to trust women. It's hard for women to trust men now too, because men now have given into this culture. And they said when feminists pushed for the sexual revolution, and they said women should just be free and have sex recklessly like men, they said, fine, okay, sure. So it's freed up men from any obligation towards women too. And I don't blame them. So now men are also mistreating women, and kind of, I think our great grandmothers would be rolling in our graves with how women are treated now sexually. But, in a way, feminists did ask for it and push for it. So trust is broken on both ends. We need to make love great again. We also need to make love safe again and start healing that broken trust between men and women. And that starts from acknowledging that there's a problem and acknowledging that we need to actually heal it.
The solution is to communicate.
We need to communicate.
And if men are not being taught how to communicate with women, or in a romantic setting, or in a setting where you can convey your goals to enter into a relationship, okay, we're taking that away from men because of the toxic masculinity ID.
Right. If we're saying that this is toxic, to grab a woman and kiss her, then what are men to do? They're handcuffed.
So how do we teach boys to be a good person at the same time be aggressive and enter into a relationship with a woman who would want that?
It's hard. That's what I try to do, and I teach men. We have to teach men those things, but also teach women that you have to understand that this is part of a male instinct, and you have to understand that you want it too. Women say that they don't want this stuff, but deep down they do.
Not all women.
Most women, if a guy isn't aggressive at all, then she'll put him in the friend zone and say he's too nice. So on a deep primal level, most women want a man to be at least a little bit aggressive sometimes, and a little bit, I don't even know if the aggressive is the right word, but it's bold. Women like a man who has courage and a man who is bold. A man who shows that he can fight for her. So that doesn't happen through weakness or passiveness. So on a primal level, most women deep down want some version of this. But they have to understand, and this is why I try to educate women, that if you keep saying that all men do is toxic, and we need to cut out things like "baby, it's cold outside," that's being too pushy, then you're going to have to accept the consequences of that, which are men not wanting to reach out and approach you anymore, or not act romantic or chivalrous at all.
You have a couple more minutes?
Yeah.
We're going to finish up right here. And again, where can folks find you?
Yeah, they can find me at Twitter or YouTube, DeAnna Lorraine 7. My website is DeAnnaLorraine.com, and my book is on Amazon.
Fantastic. Folks, find her and check her out. Amazing content on YouTube, and a lot of this great advice. And we're going to talk a couple more minutes here, which you can find on YouTube. So for folks watching us on AVN, America's Voice News, thanks for watching, and we'll be back again very soon at Whiskey Politics. Thanks for coming back. We're here now at the YouTube after hours, I guess you would want to call it. We're still with DeAnna Lorraine. And okay, you talk about online dating today, right? I've been online, I've checked it out, I've met a few people over the years. I've watched the genesis of online dating to where you can't even mention it to somebody. It's like oh, how did you guys meet? Should we say? Now it's like Twinder swipe left is in the vernacular. Yeah. Okay. What are we seeing right now? Because I guess my question for you is this. You have this level of people talking past each other, and men want what they want. Yeah. Women are looking for what they want. And it's really, really hard to find this, especially on the internet when we see this on Twitter. You know, people can just say whatever they want without a filter, right? How is this changing our society from that standpoint of at least allowing people to meet each other today?
Well, online dating started as a good thing, but with any good thing, sometimes it leads to a dark place. And right now it creates the illusion of having unlimited options. So people think they have unlimited options. And so therefore, then when they made a great connection, they are quick to forget that connection or think, oh, maybe when I get home, I'll meet someone just as great as that person, but with a better butt, or with like bigger boobs or, something, or an inch taller.
Right.
And that's what it's created is just this, this illusion of constant options. And then therefore no one ever really actually commits on one option.
Is it because of the grass is greener approach, or is it because going back to what you were talking about with guys just not wanting to take the initiative?
Yeah.
Or is it laziness?
It's both. It's guys not wanting to do. Well, now it's become laziness, right? So now because
it's like ordering a pizza,
right? Because men feel like, oh, well, women keep saying they want to be empowered and independent, and they want to be just like men. A lot of men say, hey, put your money where your mouth is, and a lot of women, are kind of upset about that. They think, why aren't men making the move? Why aren't they asking me out? They're getting lazy. They're not making any plans or taking the initiative. And it's just continuing to cause this breakdown between men and women. Women aren't getting asked out. Guys are not pursuing women. They're not putting much effort into dating. Women are getting very frustrated because men are not committing and they're not putting an effort. And around we go.
So we see this hookup society that we're in.
Yes, now it's creating a hookup.
Right.
Women are now settling for a hookup because at least that's some affection, and they.
But they're not happy with that.
Of course
not in the long term.
Not at all. This is why I say feminists have really shot themselves in the foot, and feminism hurts women more than it does men. If anything, it's freed men up, which is a bummer because a lot of men still want to get married and they still want to find a good woman. But it really hurts women more than men because women, at the end of the day, they have a desire. One of their lifelong goals is to have a marriage and have a family and have love in their life. And feminism has obliterated women's most primal goals. They have, and it's made it harder for women to get what they want most, which is marriage and family and love. And now they have to settle for a cheap, casual hookup because at least they think it's going to go somewhere, and it usually doesn't. So it's a very sad state of affairs.
How much of that is related to the idea that women can have it all, including career and marriage and everything else, which many women do very successfully? But the idea is that I don't want to settle down because I need to grow. I mean, Jordan Peterson talks about this all the time. I'm sure you've heard his speeches on this, where they do eventually have to make that decision.
Yeah.
Okay. And meanwhile, pop culture especially, is telling women, no, you don't need to make a decision. You can have it all.
Yes.
Is that where the hookup society is stemming from as well? Because it's like, I need that part of my life. I need the intimacy, but I don't need to be weighed down. Or what is it?
Yes. Again, as you can tell, I don't really care for feminism too much. But, feminism has made women believe that, their career comes first. Their first priority should be a powerful, independent woman who's successful at the top of their career. And that, a baby will always be there. Men will always be there. When really the opposite is true. And so women are now, very non-committal with men too, and think, I'm just gonna spend my 20s and 30s working and being a powerful Sex in the City kind of woman, and they're not committal as well, just like men are, and they push it off, or they just don't put effort into it. Then they wake up and they're 35 or 40 and they realize, oh my God, I haven't even started looking.
TikTok,
and their natural instinct comes in. So feminism has tricked them into pushing down, suppressing their natural instincts to be a mother, to be a wife, to be in a relationship. at the end of the day, humans were born, they want pair bonding, and pair bonding is good if it's the right relationship.
So what's happening right now with the 35, 40-year-olds that have gone through this and
They're
of
very
this
depressed.
generation?
They end up in my office and say, "Oh my God, why am I still single? What happened?" And I say, "Yeah, maybe we could adjust your priorities a little bit, because this is what happened. It's no surprise here." And they end up very miserable. And a lot of times, women who are 40 plus, they can't have children anymore. They've missed their window, and at that time, they would change anything. They would trade anything for that corner window office that they now have, for a baby smiling back up at them. They would do anything for it, but it's just too late for a lot of women. And that's why I try to sound the alarm now, because I'm not trying to be anti-women. I'm actually trying to help women. These are things that no one is telling them. The media will not tell them. The media will continue to lie to them and say that, you got to be this strong, successful, independent career woman as long as you can, and that men don't matter, that shouldn't be a part of your life. But if you continue to buy into that lie, you're actually going to miss out on the most important things in life.
So what you're saying is really a threat, and we've been to a lot of these political conventions. We met at Politicon. I saw women with shirts that says "The future is female."
The future is female.
Okay,
right.
which kind of is
a little dismissive to men.
Well, it's also there is no future.
Yeah.
Technically speaking.
Why
Okay.
can't we be part of the future? It's both important.
Right, and like Kathleen Kennedy, who got fired from Star Wars because she turned Star Wars, which I'm not a huge fan of the series, but a lot of men are grown up with it, and they've turned it into demasculating.
Totally.
And so, I guess my last question for you in all of this is this, and that is, you have these women, they're speaking to you at 35 or 40, they're looking back at their life and they're thinking, well, I was told that I could have it all, and I do want it all.
Yeah.
You're saying to them right now, the priorities, you should shift your priorities. Okay.
But realize that there's a natural timeline. A career will always be there. And you could even, I'm all for having home businesses or being an entrepreneur and working from flexible hours. But if you spend your 20s and 30s working as your first priority and trying to, make that money and be a #boss lady, then don't be surprised if, by 35 or 40, you're going to be in this position where you can't find, it's going to be hard for you to find a man. So I think perhaps we should bring back those values of teaching women, it's also great thing to work with your natural biological timeline and say, spend your early 20s finding that husband and man and having that family, establishing the family, and then you can spend the rest of your 30s and 40s and the rest of your life getting ahead of your career in your career and building whatever you want.
With what you're saying as a threat, what has been the response to you from the community, from feminism, from feminists and leaders in the...
Well, feminists don't like me, obviously, because they don't want to see the truth and they think I'm anti-woman. And again, I'm the most pro-woman because I'm willing to tell them the truth, even and take all their slings and arrows, but tell them the truth. And I think that's a woman who's much more for women than against them. No one else is going to tell them this truth. And I care about women so much that I can see the long-term consequences of this if they continue to go down that road, and they will get robbed of what they truly want most in life. If this was such a good thing, what we're doing now with feminism, then why are women crying, when they're 35 or 40, miserable because they can't find any man to commit? All they can get are casual hookups. They're very successful, but they feel empty, they feel burnt out. More women than ever are on anti-anxiety medication, antidepressants. 1 out of every 4 women is on one of those. And even in the paradox of declining female happiness, there's been a study that's tracked female happiness levels in the past 50 years and shown that women were significantly more happy before feminism, this last wave of feminism initiated in the 1960s, than they are now. So if this really worked so well, this system that we've been currently on with this track that women have been on with feminism, then what are the numbers showing differently? Why are women so miserable now? Why are women so upset? Why do they call me and say, please help me find a man, I'm 35 or I'm 40 and I want desperately to be a wife and mother and I can't have it, I can't find it?
The trajectory you're on, are you optimistic, pessimistic?
I'm optimistic. Some days I have pessimistic days, but I believe that we can make love great again because I think we have enough people that are awakened to this, they see that there's a problem and they're willing to try to fix it. I think that we have the right president in place to try to get some measures taken and to try to get some things done and to talk about the importance of the family again, to talk about the importance of men, that we need strong men because strong men create a strong country, and that men should be appreciated instead of denigrated, and that we also need strong, great women who love and embrace their femininity and who want to, be a teammate to a man. Doesn't mean she can't do her own thing, pursue her own passion or work, but enough of this male bashing. It's got to go. Enough making men the enemy. Men are not the enemy. The real enemies of the world need men. They need strong men, right? Yeah. So yes, I'm optimistic. I think that we have the right president, that we can start promoting more family and values more. And I, like I said, I believe in order to make America great again, truly, we need to make love between men and women. We need to make the family unit, and we need to make our culture great again.
Good words. Good thoughts. DeAnna Lorraine, thank you so much. Really greatly appreciate it. Again, remind folks where they can find your book and you online.
Yes. You can find my book on Amazon. It's Making Love Great Again. And you can find me, DeAnna Lorraine 7, on Twitter and on YouTube. Definitely give me a subscribe. I have lots of great videos and contents there. And my actual website also is DeAnnaLorraine.com.
Outstanding. Thanks so much for joining us, DeAnna.
Yeah,
And you can follow me at David Sussman on Twitter. Find our Whiskey Politics page on Facebook, and of course YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play, blah, 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 everywhere else. We'll be back again very soon with Whiskey Politics. And again, a very special thanks to DeAnna Lorraine.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.